How we doing, traders? Welcome to the SPACs Attack. Let's get it started. How we doing, traders? Welcome to the SPACs Attack, where we talk everything SPACs, and we got another great interview for you today. I'm super excited. We got Vicarious Surgical here right behind me, and I'm super excited to get into that interview. But before then, of course, like always, guys, let's get into our man, the biggest and name to this show, the Chrisopedia, Chris Katje. What's up, man? How's the brains?
Hey, what's going on, Mitch? How are we doing today?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. I hope you got your morning smoothie in, or maybe a little coffee, whatever gets you going.
That caffeine.
Yeah, I know you're a do type of guy.
I'm a do guy, yeah.
Can't blame you, man. Good morning. It's good to be with you again, like always. Before we get into the headlines, one thing I definitely wanted to say is if you didn't catch my man on last night on Money Mitch, you would have heard a lot of what we are thinking about the SPAC environment. A lot of times we don't get to exactly talk about this because we got so much on the plate. But check it out, guys. And one of the things that Chris will become kind of our weekly SPAC expert that I'll try to reach out to usually on a weekly basis so that we can touch some SPACs. And like always, guys, if you want to stick with SPACs Attack, get in the newsletter. If you don't have the newsletter already, go down in the description right now. Zoltan would kill me if I didn't mention that. So I wanted to mention that, give a shout out. And let's get into some headlines. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Looks like we have everyone starting to roll in, joining us from the other stream. So we'll give it another minute here just to get the viewers transitioned over, but before we knock out those headlines. But yeah, a lot of so some notable, upgrades, downgrades out there, news pieces, and then like Mitch said, we've got another interview today talking ticker DEH. Vicarious Surgical with some big backers. So definitely looking forward to that. So looks like everyone's over here now. So yeah, we can go ahead and take it back here. All right, guys. So headlines today. Up first, we have ACTC. So this is the SPAC that's taking Proterra public. So Proterra, electric vans, electric buses. So news out that President Joe Biden will virtually tour Proterra's factory for electric buses in Greenville. So Proterra, one of the first manufacturers of electric buses and supplying batteries for other items for electric school buses. They've already landed several deals across the U.S. Now getting that attention from Joe Biden. Remember, there's a new, administrative goal of reaching zero emissions for transit and school buses by the year 2030. So the fact that Biden is virtually touring, the Proterra plant today, I think is a big positive. And we could see some new wins announced, as early as today, across the U.S. with the partnership there. So keep an eye out on ACTC. Then some upgrades, downgrades out there. We have Bank of America initiating coverage of several EV plays. So up first, we have Fisker, FSR. So Bank of America initiating with a buy rating and a price target of $31. So we had, shares trading up double digits this morning. Looks like starting to give part of that back. I'm seeing up about 7% today. One of the big gainers out there, FSR. I do own shares. Remember, this is one of the better performing SPACs of 2021. As they look towards that Fisker Ocean EV that's already got over 15,000 reservations. according to Henrik Fisker. So yeah, great performance the first half of 2021. It has dropped off now, but Bank of America, naming it one of its top EV plays, so keep an eye out here. Maybe this is the start of another rally. And then Bank of America initiating coverage on Lordstown Motors, ticker RIDE, with a neutral rating and a price target of $13. So RIDE, a little out of favor here with Bank of America. And as you can see in that chart, this thing has came crashing down now. So not a lot to add here, but Bank of America, definitely stepping to the sidelines here on RIDE with that neutral rating. And then lastly, we have GOEV. So Bank of America initiating coverage on Canoe with an underperform rating and a price target of $6. So if you look at the Canoe stock price here, we have a new 52-week low. I saw all the way down to $7.68. Prior to today, shares had traded between $8.05 to $24.90. Their rival VCVC, taking Re Automotive public, just signed that deal with Magna International. That could be taking away from their thunder here. And then also remember, Canoe was a rumor to be working with Apple. Apple had even talked to the company last year, but nothing has come forward on that, with the Apple car. So really just not a lot of news out there with Canoe, and really out of favor. And that Bank of America, initiation of underperform and a price target of $6 today, really hitting shares hard. And we have IPOE bringing SoFi public. This one was named a top pick yesterday on CNBC during final picks. This is one, as we talk long-term SPACs, this might be one worth looking at right now, down at 15. SoFi, a fintech play. Great, brand awareness. They also have that Gemini platform, which is similar to a AWS back end for some of these processors and some of these websites. So keep an eye out on IPOE. TTCF, Tattooed Chef, shares fell yesterday. It was revealed that their chief financial officer resigned last week. So no new, news out about that, but it has circulated around that he resigned. And, normally when a CFO resigns, it's seen, unfavorably by the market. So keep an eye out on TTCF. And AACQ, Origin Materials. We talked about them yesterday, signing that new partnership, but also they are adding veterans from Clorox and Procter & Gamble to the board of directors. So Origin Materials getting some big names here, the board of directors, as they look to, take on in that sustainability market. Then ARK Funds yesterday, notable Kathy Wood had been buying SPACs. She actually sold yesterday. So the last time I remember her selling a stake in a SPAC was HIMS, HIMS, and she completely exited that position. So this is a story worth watching. Yesterday, they sold shares of SPCE, Virgin Galactic, and ACIC, which is taking Archer public. They did add shares of SPFR, which I own, CMLF, and RTP. So notable here that SPCE, which she does still own a sizable chunk across several ETFs, getting sold at a time when we're also seeing, Richard Branson and Chamath sell partial stakes. And then also seeing ACIC sold, but RTP added. So when we talk the electric vertical takeoff and landing devices, it looks like maybe ARK is making its decision that RTP with Joby Aviation is going to be the long-term winner instead of Archer. So keep an eye out. That email tonight, may clear some things up if there's more sales and buys across those names. Other movers, we have QS down 11% yesterday. MP down 11%. TTCF, which I hit on, was down 11%. And CLOV, Clover Health, up 10% yesterday. It did cross that $10 mark a couple times, but, couldn't sustain it as I suspected. And now Clover Health shares down 9% today, back to $8.85. And then lastly, DMYD, the merger is approved with Genius Sports, will trade as ticker GENI as early as tomorrow. Mitch, I know you're a ticker guy, so we got Genius Sports with the Genie ticker, starting tomorrow, and of course Genius Sports landing that exclusive NFL deal just in time, before the company merges here. So a lot of exciting things for Genius Sports here. What do you think? GENI, Genie. What do you think of that ticker?
I love it. I love it. I was laughing because, as you said, Mitch, I know you love tickers. Literally, I was just back here like, oh, Genie. I love it. I love it. I always pay attention to what the ticker name is, just like I paid attention to B-Fly with long view. That was one that was out there for a while. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. But really, guys, I think this is going to be an interesting chart. I'm going to pull up the DMYD chart right now really quickly, take a look at it before we get into our great interview today. But really, this pullback towards this big support here, I'm definitely interested. I know some people have been talking about what SPACs have the value. To me, I really like this company. I think they're definitely leaders. You've been seeing nothing but good catalysts come out of this company, whether it be their new partnerships from, let's say, the NFL, or when you saw the March Madness and taking control there. I think you're definitely seeing momentum in this company. If it gets down somewhere near 15s or below the 16 level, I definitely will be interested in DMYD, but soon I can't even say this anymore. Let's just say Genie.
Yeah, and I know I'm watching that 15 level there. This is one I love long term. A lot of positive things, like you said, March Madness, the NCAA deal, now the NFL deal. And, notable, I have an article out too. The NFL is actually going to own 5% of Genius Sports as this deal goes through. So the NFL is fully invested here, right? And they want what's best for Genius Sports. And the other thing is, the NFL signed 3 official sports betting partners, DraftKings, FanDuel, and Caesars Entertainment. All 3 of those companies committed to using the official data feed of the NFL, which, of course, is powered by Genius Sports. So, a big play there, in the NFL already helping them, right, kick in on those deals. So I think Genius Sports is exciting here. I want to see if we pull back more today or tomorrow with that changeover. But with that said, the company may also be front and center on CNBC and do some interviews this week. So we might actually see momentum into the later part of the week. But time will tell if we get more of a pullback. But I am definitely watching that 15 level for a long-term entry here.
All right, Chris, before we get into our interviews, one thing I wanted to talk about was, what is your interest in robotics, Chris? Have you thought about how robotics is going to come into play, at least in our generation?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Robotics have really taken over, several industries with automation. I mean, I remember years ago, right, when the Roomba came out, right, the vacuum,
the room.
right? And look at what that did, right? It became a household name, Roomba. Everyone knew what it was. And now we have robotics, powering warehouses, right? Where you can, grab packages, sort packages, all this stuff is done faster. And now we have exciting robotic technology also advancing, the medical field. And we look at how, medical field has grown over the years. Surgeries have become more precise. More lives can be saved, right? Because they're more precise. The doctors have the tools that they need. So, excited that today we're going to be talking to a robotics company, that's trying to advance that further, right? By using robotics, in surgery. So I know I'm excited to hear more about Vicarious Surgical.
Yeah, definitely. It's one thing that I've definitely thought about since, let's say, even before, when we were just starting to think about maybe 3D printing organs. I had a friend that was going to school for kind of medical engineering, and he was looking at certain things like robotics. And this was, I can tell you, this was about 6-7 years ago, guys. So I should have been paying attention then. So maybe we'll pay attention now for our interview. So let's go ahead and let's get into our interview, Chris, into the next generation of robotics. Let's go ahead and bring on here our guest for the day, and let's unlock some SPACs.
All right, guys, super excited. Another exclusive interview here on SPAC Attack. So joining us on the show today, we have Adam Sach, the co-CEO of Vicarious Surgical, and Donald Tang, the co-CEO of D8 Holdings. So Vicarious Surgical going public via SPAC merger with D8 Holdings. That's ticker DEH. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the show today.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
Welcome on, guys. All right, so the way we'll work, we'll let Chris do some questions, and I'll be back with some of my own.
All right, guys, so let's kick off here. SPAC Attack, we're, focused on SPACs here. So we'll start with you here, Adam. So, why the decision to go public via SPAC, and, was a traditional IPO consideration?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's one that we obviously spent a while internally discussing before we made the decision to partner with Donald and D8. So I think there's two separate questions in there, right? There's why did we decide to go public, and why a SPAC versus an IPO? From the decision to go public standpoint, I think that one was a fairly easy decision for us. Was frankly, always in our plan for at least a long time for the last 7 years that we've been working on this company. And it really comes down to combination of course, access to the capital markets, to the public markets, but more importantly, the visibility that it gives us to the entire world, to potential hospitals, surgeons, and patients. It lets us essentially show what we're doing in detail to everybody, and to get that level of credibility, everything from potential customers in the future to potential employees, as we grow our team from where it is today to many hundreds of people over the next 2 years. And then as far as the decision SPAC versus traditional IPO is concerned, that really comes down to what, I think you've likely heard from a lot of other people about, the partnership with D8, with Donald, their ability to dive in, to do deep diligence into our company, to literally spend months vetting, sending surgeons and physicians and advisors out to visit us, meeting with everyone in their network, and really then after they gain confidence doing an amount of diligence that isn't typically done in an IPO process, they can then stand on it, both with their capital and their reputation, in order to back this IPO.
Awesome. And then, so Donald, turning to you, D8 Holdings here, you had plenty of opportunities to take, a number of companies public with this SPAC. What was it about Vicarious Surgical that really set it apart from, other companies that you could have brought public here with DEH?
Yeah, Chris, honestly, it was too good to pass up. We've initially set out looking at consumer deals, and we put together a pretty strong board to look at consumer deals. But when I was shown some videos of what Vicarious was working on, it was mind blowing, to be honest. I invest in healthcare. We have an incubator in biotech. I study computer science. I have a lot of friends in robotics. We use robotics in some of our portfolio companies that we're invested into. And a surgical robot isn't supposed to do what the Vicarious robot is able to do. Right? That's not something that you typically see. And I was kind of shocked to see kind of the clips, and I wanted to learn more. And so that kind of was the starting point. Now, we were lucky that there were a number of advisors that we could rely on. There were a number of people that we knew in our network that could kind of go and test out the robot and really make sure that the core engineering kind of problems that needed to be solved were solved. And that really what was left was mostly execution, right? Getting the rough edges figured out, making sure the product kind of holds, make sure the interface works, but really the fundamental engineering and physical kind of R&D issues, right, were resolved. And we were able to do that. And just given where the state of the market is in surgery and in healthcare, it's huge white space. So it was frankly too good to turn down. And as part of our diligence, I think you'll notice that we ended up adding a director to our board, Dr. David Hoch, who has a pretty strong kind of I guess, credibility in the healthcare space, but also an advisor, Dr. Tom Cotto, who's a pretty renowned surgeon. And based on kind of their help, understanding the opportunity, understanding kind of the state of the robot, we got very comfortable with pursuing Vicarious versus something else.
Awesome, and I'll stick with you, Donald. The pipe on this deal, looks exciting with some of those big names, right? We have Bill Gates, Becton Dickinson, Eric Schmidt, and others. So Donald, how were you able to get this deal done and also grab some of those important names here on the pipe of the SPAC?
Yeah, I'd say we're very lucky. Number one, I think Adam is a visionary founder. Right, he has surrounded himself with a very strong team. You see a few of the pictures of people on the team here. There is a level of credibility here in the surgical robotics space with David Steika, formerly of RS, Paul Hermes, who ran the robotics program at Medtronic, and a couple others. And so, number one, I think at first glance, for any investor, this is something that you would want to look into more closely. I mentioned kind of the demos of the product itself. It's pretty impressive. And it only takes a couple of minutes of a video to understand that. I actually strongly suggest viewers to go to our website and take a look at some of these capabilities. That's number two. Number three, I think yes, it's been a tough environment for pipes, but I think everyone understands that this is a massive space with massive TAM. Trillions globally. To be honest, is being spent on healthcare. And you look at the existing penetration of legacy platforms, it's actually very, very low. So there are very well understood problems and limitations of current systems that need to be addressed. And luckily, Adam and his team have been able to engineer something using modern technology, using everything that's available today to really come up with a product that is much, much better. And I'm sure we'll ask him about the specifics of the robot, but this is something that does not exist in the field today. We've looked at many other kind of potential challengers to the market, and it's pretty unique.
Awesome. Yeah, Adam, let's hear about Vicarious Surgical. So, I've got some specific questions later on, but give us the big picture here. What is Vicarious Surgical all about?
Yeah, so obviously we're a surgical robotics company, but what it really comes down to for us is 7 years ago when we started full-time on this company, we looked at the industry of surgical robotics, what exists today, and realized that there are a lot of shortcomings. So today, most surgical procedures are actually performed with open surgical technique. That's the same way they've been performed for over 100 years, where a surgeon will take a scalpel, just literally open up your abdominal cavity and reach in and operate. But unfortunately, with open surgery, most of the injury comes from that incision, not from the work that's done on the organs inside of the abdomen. So that's where minimally invasive surgery comes in, where a surgeon will make 3 to 5 small incisions up to 1.5 centimeters across. And through those incisions, they insert these long, slender instruments. The instruments pivot about the abdominal wall and triangulate to tissue inside the abdomen. But that triangulation and the pivoting causes a tremendous amount of difficulty to the surgeon. That being said, they overcome it and they do the best that they can because it's worth it, because it goes from 20% complication rates in the incision to 1%. That being said, it's still, after 40 years, has not gained widespread adoption because with manual technique and with legacy surgical robots, the surgeon actually needs to create the kinematic profile, the motion profile of the robot for every procedure that they want to perform based on where they put the incisions. It takes over 100 procedures to become proficient in setting up a legacy surgical robot. And those are procedures that are performed on people, practice that's done on people. So all of this has led to less than 50% minimally invasive adoption and actually only 3.2% adoption of legacy surgical robots after 2 decades on the market. So when we started this company, we really said, okay, we need to take a step back and actually reinvent the way the actuators work so that we can have human-like motion, all the joints of the surgeon's body inside of the abdomen. We've done that with something that we call a decoupled actuator. So with legacy surgical robots, joint by joint, there's a coupling of forces and motion between each of the joints inside the robotic arm. That's why with just a wrist inside the abdomen, legacy surgical robots have thick control cables that are millimeter in diameter and made out of steel. We've invented and patented a series of ways to fully remove that coupling of motion. That's what enables, for the first time ever, through a 1.5 centimeter incision, 2 arms and a camera with 9 degrees of freedom per arm. And those 9 degrees of freedom are those wrists, elbows, and shoulders that mimic the surgeon's body. We're creating an avatar for the surgeon inside of their patient.
Awesome. And then, so Donald, turning back to you, you mentioned, that there's no real, competition out there. So, is that what really drew you in here, to Vicarious? And then also, if you could touch on, and I'll let Adam too, but first, Donald here, the breakthrough designation by the FDA and how important that was in making the decision to grab Vicarious here with the SPAC deal.
Yeah, I think the breakthrough designation is quite important, and I'll let Adam talk more about what that means later. But in short, that is some level of validation. It's not final clearance, but it does show that there is some recognition, right, that this is a groundbreaking technology. I think really the decision to go after Vicarious is kind of driven by this sense that surgery should be done better, right? And we've spoken to quite a few surgeons, a number that have been spending time with Vicarious over the years. And the question I ask every single one is every surgeon is very simple, right? It's what did this look like when you first started playing with it? What does it look like now? And how does that pace of improvement jive with what your sense of what innovation in medical robotics should be? And 2, do you see that kind of resulting in a product that you can put into your operating theater and actually utilize in the near future? And by and large, the answer was it's improving much faster than we thought was possible. This is not the usual pace of innovation in kind of this field. And then number 2, each surgeon, what was really reassuring to me was they were able to identify specific reasons why this was better, or would make their life easier, would be safer, or would otherwise be just more attractive to them in their practice. And so once you start spending time with kind of the people who are doing complicated surgeries day in and day out, holding patients' lives in their hands, and they have kind of this sort of feedback, it becomes very easy to get comfortable that this is a product that people want and need. And again, we want to make sure that obviously this is not a product that is on the shelves today and being sold. But we wanted to make sure that there was a clear path to clearance and to a final product, and that there was no kind of fundamental physics constraint to the robot's capabilities. And I'm quite confident that that through our diligence, this is an execution story, not one of invention that we need to wait to play out.
Awesome. So, turn it over to you, Adam. You heard Donald talk about it. What does that breakthrough designation mean, going forward, and how do we get there?
Yeah, so this is something that we're incredibly proud of. The breakthrough designation really means that the FDA reviewed in detail what we're doing and compared it to everything that exists today. So that includes open surgery and manual minimally invasive surgery and robotic minimally invasive surgery that are used with legacy systems in operating rooms today. And after that review, they concluded, based on the details of how we'll be performing the procedures, as well as the technical details of how our robot works, that we are fundamentally different in a way that is likely to lead to a major clinical benefit that will save lives and vastly improve lives. And because of this, and first of all, we're the only robotics platform to receive a breakthrough designation, and it means that the FDA is committing to work closely with us to get our system through the process to verify that it is safe and effective, and to get it out to market as quickly as possible because of the incredible impact that it is likely to have on patients' lives. So with that, they're providing everything from prioritized review pathways and FDA senior leadership being involved in our application from the beginning, but also a bunch of reimbursement benefits, making sure that hospitals are adequately incentivized from as soon as the day that we launch our system to adopt it and to use it quickly.
All right, I'm going to go ahead up and jump in here, and I want to ask some questions based on the virtual reality side. So one thing that I definitely focused on is how VR is being adapted. You know, over the last 5 years, it's been kind of a little bit slower, but I really think that over the next couple of years, VR is going to be adapted quickly. And can you at least explain for us how virtual reality really works here for surgeries? And
Yeah,
I'll go to Adam.
Oh, sorry. So VR is, it's an important piece of this. I'd say that, the core innovations are really around making this humanoid robot, but the VR aspect of it really adds a level to this that doesn't come without it. Right? It's that level of immersive, really feeling like you've been plucked out of the operating room and placed inside the abdomen of a patient, and frankly, kind of almost bizarre, uncanny way, especially when you're actually using this and doing procedures, cadaveric procedures. It feels real. It feels like you are inside of the patient, operating from the inside out, and shrunk to exactly the size that you need to be to operate on the organs. That being said, we're all familiar with some of the limitations of VR. It's actually the biggest limitation for us is just the fact that it is so immersive, and sometimes a surgeon doesn't need to do incredibly delicate detail tasks. Sometimes they need to collaborate with the operating room. And because of that, we're providing both a VR display, a 3D display combined with that head-mounted VR headset. So you can choose to use either or switch back and forth during a procedure between the two visualization modalities.
Yeah, I think that's a great addition there that you do have both. That's something that I didn't know until right now. So thank you for bringing that up, Adam. That was one thing that I was wondering. Not that many people are used to using VR goggles, so that's another thing to adjust to. Now let's go into the system. Okay, so to me, this is really the background, or like I like to say, the thing behind your company, and why I really see it. So the system, break down the technology here. What would you point at is really important, and what really separates you from the rest here by using this system?
Well, so I think it's all important. It all cascades from those decoupled actuators. So by decoupling the actuators, we're able to have so many more joints. We're able to use 0.5 millimeter diameter advanced polymer cables to drive the robotic arms. Now that they're slippery because they're polymer, not stainless steel, we can then get away from having pulleys throughout the arms. We can move to a low-cost disposable robot. And then because we have so much capability inside of the body, inside of the patient's abdominal cavity, we no longer are generating most of our motion by pivoting about the abdominal wall. So not only is that so much simpler to set up and so much more capable when inside of the abdomen, allowing the surgeon to operate anywhere from any incision site facing in any direction, but on top of all of that, it greatly simplifies the capital equipment. So our capital equipment is essentially not a robot. That's compared to legacy systems that are 4 gigantic robotic arms that are frankly high performance, that create these large motions outside the abdomen quickly, pivot about the abdominal wall, then create tiny little motions inside of the abdomen. Our system outside is just a non-robotic support system that collapses down, can be moved from OR to OR easily, is just a workstation and a patient-side cart with one cable connecting them. It fits through a normal door, enabling it to get into ambulatory surgical center settings. Plus, it has incredible cost advantages. We're going from these 4 giant high-performance machines to one, essentially non-robotic support. And the cost of goods is much, much lower, 5 to 10x lower than any system that's than any of the legacy robotic systems that are in operating rooms today.
All right, I got one more question for you, Adam, here, and this is going to be interesting for me. We've been talking about how VR is being adapted, but I think first, really, 5G comes into play for us as a consumer overall, and so how does 5G play into your company, and how is that going to benefit?
It's a really interesting question. I'd say 5G for remote placement and connectivity will become increasingly important. That being said, a lot of hospitals across the US and frankly across the world have excellent, wired infrastructure with fairly low latency. So overall, I think connectivity, though, is going to be incredibly important in operating rooms going forward. There's a lot of conversation around remote surgery. And the conversation's really been focused in the past around one surgeon in, say, a major city like Boston, where I'm based, and our company is, operating on a patient in a remote location. But, at the end of the day, not only does that have connectivity and security implications, as well as safety implications if something goes wrong during the procedure, who's there to help? I do believe all of those can be overcome, but the problem that is very difficult to overcome is the fact that it really only helps one patient, and that there's already a shortage of surgeons even in major cities. So we really believe that the real reason connectivity will be important, especially with a low-cost portable surgical robotics system, is to enable remote training and remote proctoring. Today, to learn how to do new procedures, surgeons will often travel to other surgeons' operating rooms to be proctored, to learn, to watch a procedure, to do a procedure, and practice. With our system, we're enabling the ability for a surgeon anywhere in the world to live remote proctor and assist a local surgeon so that they can learn how to do a complex, minimally invasive technique that they otherwise would have done with open surgery, using our technology for thousands of patients in their community. And that's the real benefit of remote surgery, connectivity, and eventually 5G in operating rooms.
All right, so I'm gonna sneak one more in here and sneak one in here. So one of the things that I've been paying attention to, and I know that it's one part of the environment that we have right now with SPACs, is really starting to pay attention to the multiples and the valuation. So that's what I wanted to point out here with our 8.4 implied multiple. And first, I'll go to Donald with this one. Was this part of the process when you were going ahead and determining which company you were going to go after? Were you looking at the valuation, the future revenues, and how that came into your decision, Donald?
Absolutely. Valuation is one of the most important parts of investment, right? There's a wrong price and a right price for everything. I would say, though, that in this particular case, we take a lot of comfort from two perspectives. One, it's just an incredibly large addressable market. The competition is open surgery, and that's 90% plus of all procedures out there. And it's hugely invasive, hugely costly, and takes a lot of time to recover. And that cost is really what we're addressing, what we're trying to fix. If there were a better solution out there, open surgery wouldn't be the dominant form of surgery today, and that's really what we're going after. So I think the TAM is absolutely massive. That's number one. Number two, if you look at kind of other companies that are developing their own platforms, and obviously I think the technology here is superior and differentiated. But in the private market, there have been a lot of companies that have been funded at very, very hefty valuations. Again, because people understand the TAM is big, and these are very robust levels. So in that context, whether it be from a revenue multiple perspective or just the absolute level that we're at, the enterprise value of 1.1 billion, it actually looks pretty compelling. I would also note that I'm actually based in Hong Kong. I spent most of my career in Asia, and this is a part of the world that should be a massive market for surgical robots. The truth is, even in the percentage of open surgeries that's been penetrated by surgical robots, the penetration here is actually not great because it's not that difficult, for a firm based in the U.S. dealing with the FDA to come in and figure out the go-to-market strategy here. So we think we actually have a role to play in that as well, and that will just be another lever that we can really use to make sure that the returns for everyone is good on this one. So absolutely, valuation is very important. We care about valuation as well, but I think in this particular instance, we thought it was very, very well justified.
Awesome. So, one of the things we've noticed with SPACs lately, right, is that, people should be looking at them as, growth stocks, companies, that may be a couple years out. So, Adam, I want to turn to the timeline here, right? So we have a slide in that investor presentation that shows the roadmap. So if we're at the starting line there, 2021, can you just walk us through some of the key dates here and why investors should be looking at this maybe a couple years out rather than, immediate this year reaction piece?
Yeah, so we've created this roadmap, and it gets us from where we are today to launching our product, shipping 100 units, and well beyond. That's not on this slide, but of course is in our model, and separated across into the 4 categories that you see here. Development, things like beta testing will be incredibly important. We're constantly gaining feedback from surgeons, and as we ramp that up in larger numbers and more formally with more hospitals, especially hospitals in our early adopter programs that we're creating, that will be used in order to gain feedback to make sure that our systems are perfectly designed for their hospital's needs. To jump down to the middle there, commercial. That launching those early adopter programs will be incredibly important, both to show that this is worth the mindshare time, operating room space, and capital of surgeons and hospitals, as well as to work with those beta programs, which is the purpose of all of that, in order to gain not only validation for us, but also feedback to ensure that our product is perfectly designed and ready to use and ready to launch when we do. From a regulatory standpoint, engaging the agency and getting the appropriate clearances, and a growth standpoint, building out our existing facility in order to manufacture devices. So I think the upside here and the opportunity is incredible. It is a few years out, but we'll have some really exciting and wonderful news that's going to be our privilege to share with the world over the next few years as we get there.
I think it's, if you don't mind, I think it's also worth noting that this is a system that's been used in live animal labs as well as cadaver labs. So it's not kind of a design that exists only in kind of a computer somewhere. This is actually a physical product that's been used for real procedures. And so back to valuation, we think this is actually the right time for a company like us to be pursuing a deal with Vicarious Surgical.
Awesome. Great insight there, Donald. Donald, you touched a couple times on the TAM, the total addressable market. I want to go back there. I know there's a slide in the investor presentation. There it is. We've got, this huge TAM. So Donald, as you did your due diligence in this company, just talk a little bit about the total addressable market. And then also you touched a little on international, if you can, expand on that for us as well.
Yeah, maybe starting with international, very little of that is actually in the current set of projections. So this is optional, or this is additional gravy if we're able to unlock it. But something certainly that we're going to be working on, part of the value add that D8 brings to the table here. On the addressable market and the procedures, one of the interesting comments that really stuck out when we interviewed surgeons and had some of our own kind of go and visit was that this system and the projections that we have, it's really focused on hernia as an initial market. But the feedback that I thought was quite interesting was that a number of surgeons said, look, this is something you have to get into the hands of groundbreaking doctors because they will view this as a new tool, and they will be able to dream up new ways of using it in procedures that just can't be done today. And I think that really stuck to me. The sort of excitement that surgeons kind of shared after trying out the robot, and kind of this idea that there is actually a lot of white space out there that is yet to be figured out. And really, this is a tool that will have more and more uses as people get more familiar with it and its capabilities. Now, back to kind of just the initial indication of hernia, there's close to 1 million cases a year. And a hernia, as you know, is an incision from a surgery that doesn't heal properly. And of course, if you have hernia and you have surgery, that's another incision that you have to make to heal an existing one. You can very easily see why for some hernias where it's too difficult to kind of operate on, basically just doesn't make sense to go in and use open surgery for. So we think that's a pretty strong initial market to focus on. It's got a lot of revenue associated with it, but as the robot develops, as there's more tools, there's just going to be more and more procedures that this can be used to address.
And I also think it's an important point to note that, our roadmap here is essentially focusing on, like Donald was saying, focusing on those procedures that competitors, that robotic competitors have not been able to successfully address. That's actually why we've been granted this breakthrough designation from the FDA, because the FDA has recognized that we are able to address and solve clinical needs in large procedural categories like hernia repair, where, yes, they're addressed somewhat with robotic competition, but not significantly due to incredible constraints and limitations of those existing systems. So as we view it, we're focusing on target markets where the market and the competition are open surgery. The legacy robotic companies, they've really only been able to tackle about 3.2% of the total market over 20 years, and they are growing, but at a relatively modest clip. We believe that we have an opportunity to, by focusing on procedures where they've struggled to gain adoption, to gain rapid adoption with our clinical benefit, cost savings to the hospital, time benefits in the operating room, which are absolutely incredible, against everything that exists today.
Awesome, guys. I think that's going to do it for the questions we have. But if you don't mind, we've got some questions here from the chat, from our loyal viewers here. We'll try to get into some of these questions. So, we already touched a little on competition and, the legacy providers. But we have a couple comments here, from AJ and John talking about, big pharma companies already having robotics. So, really, how do you, take on some of the competition here and really differentiate yourself, technology cost-wise, if you don't mind, Adam?
Yeah, so it all comes down to those decoupled actuators. Legacy systems are essentially a wrist on a stick. They take an average of 100 procedures to gain proficiency and learning how to use. And that's because the surgeon literally needs to design how to do the robotic motion. What you just saw on the screen, that's not even close to possible with legacy robotic systems. No system can that exists in an operating room today can flip all the way back, work around the incision site. They also are any single incision legacy systems are 25 millimeters and above. Ours is 15 millimeters, a normal, minimally invasive surgical incision. The whole system is 5 to 10 times lower cost because we've miniaturized the entire robot. We are no longer using 4 gigantic robotic arms that are high performance outside the abdomen. We have a tiny little robot inside the abdomen. So the differences just pile up and snowball in a way that are incredibly beneficial to the surgeon, to the patient, and to the hospital. And again, that's why we've been able to achieve a breakthrough designation. So, in a market this lucrative with this big a TAM, this big an ethical opportunity and mandate, there will always be competitors and incumbents. But the main incumbent only has about 6,000 machines across the entire world after 20 years. That's because these things are millions of dollars, require construction and dedicated operating rooms, 100 procedures of training, etc. Our system is so much smaller, so much portable, lower cost, can be moved from OR to OR. It essentially checks all of the boxes. There are maybe a half dozen to a dozen things that I would say are wrong with legacy robotic systems in operating rooms today. There are a few competitors that check 1 or 2 of those boxes here and there. We've actually spent the last 7 years redesigning from the actuator level up so that we can check every single one of those boxes and actually meet the demands of surgeons, hospitals, and patients for all procedures or almost all procedures.
Awesome. And then another question here from AJ asking about pre-orders. So any comments, Adam or Donald, on, pre-orders existing or when we may start to hear more details on that front?
Yeah, so we have to be careful about exactly what we do in here, because we are in a regulated industry, and the FDA has strict rules about what we can and cannot do. That being said, we can and certainly are bringing this to potential customers all across the country in order to make sure that our device is designed perfectly for their needs, to make sure everything from the price point, the feature set, the portability, the training programs, all of this works effectively for their surgeons, in their hospital, for their patients. And by doing this, of course, we can also generate and demonstrate interest, as well as the potential for some non-binding letters of intent from hospitals. But we do have to be careful and respect the limitations of what the FDA has set out, and make sure that all of this is with the focus of making sure that we're designing the perfect system for surgeons, hospitals, and patients.
Awesome. I got to second all these comments from the chat. These videos are amazing. Those are killer robots. Wow. Like, these comments are just, awesome. That technology, looks amazing. When you can see it even on screen here, so shout out, to this company and this deal, Donald. So I want to thank both of you for your time today. I know we kept you, longer than anticipated. You answered all our questions. So again, guys, joining us on the show, we have Adam Sach, the co-CEO of Vicarious Surgical, and Donald Tang, the co-CEO of DEH Holdings. Company is going public via SPAC merger. The ticker is DEH. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you guys very much.
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to let you know they're comparing you to Da Vinci out there. So just wanted to tell you a little bit from the chat.
Got it.
All right, guys. You guys have a great one. Thank you for joining.
They should compare us to open surgery more than anything else.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Best comparison for you.
There we go.
That, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Well, you guys heard it first right here on the SPAC Attack. That's why we go into our interviews. So definitely smash the like button. Like my man Born Free says, hit that like button and hit the share. Let everyone know if they need to learn about this company. That's really what it's all about, guys. It's what we're here for. We're getting you that in-depth interview so that you can go out and do a little bit more research, find when the valuation meets the price, and go ahead and make your own investment decisions. But what'd you think about an interview, Chris?
Yeah, I like it. I love those videos. That was great. And the keys here for me, right, are talking about, market share and versus competition, and how, using robotics still very underpenetrated, right, with surgery. So, even with those competitors already out there's a huge opportunity. And, based on their technology and some of the new items that they're adding, I think they can take share from the competition. But also, even if they don't take that share, they can just grow the overall market of, surgeries using robotics. And, I love the comment here from Donald. We talk to so many SPAC companies, right, Mitch, where, we want to know why this company, and he said they sent their doctors. They talk to doctors, right, about this technology, about doing surgeries with these robots to find out, hey, is this a good investment, right? That's your due diligence right there. That's what we try to do as investors, but this is what SPACs try to do, to bring companies public. Is what better than to get firsthand insight from doctors that, could potentially use this device. That was a big key for me, when Donald said that.
Yeah, I like how, one of the things that he mentioned is that really, the movements of the robot, I think, is what he really signified, separated. The incision, of course, the size of the incision, that's if it not being invasive, that's just, it helps 10 times for recovery, for so many things. Even just like scars. even just scars from surgery. I mean, certain people will show you scars from surgery all through their torsos. So if you could do things like this, that's definitely a competitive advantage. I think the movement really stood out to me, and how it can move inside and do those movements which are needed. You know, one of the things I think that most people don't realize, I mean, is surgery is not easy. I mean, just because it's done by doctors nowadays doesn't mean that it's easy. You know, and I think a lot of people think about this when they actually go into surgery. But, you know, that's one thing I'd mention is that I haven't seen, like John Doe said, never seen anything move like that.
Exactly.
That's the same thing I'd have to state.
Yeah.
And the engineers they probably have behind that to figure out what kind of angles are really needed and beneficial. I mean, that's what really, for me, throws it over the top. And I'll have to take a look at it and learn some more about when these robotics really going to come into play, so that I can invest in a company like this.
Yeah, you know, and again, this is a long-term play, right? You're not going to see revenue this year. You know, this is a couple years away, but they do have that breakthrough designation from the FDA. So the FDA, you know, saying that the technology's there, you know, it's different from competitors. So I think that's a key advantage. And, you know, if they can stay on this roadmap, you know, and get this device made, I think they'll see strong interest from hospitals and doctors, because it's enough of a different product than that's already out there. And, you know, Donald being based in Hong Kong and talking the international opportunity, I mean, Mitch, you heard him say, right, that's not even baked into those financial projections. So, you know, that's one of the things we keep talking with SPACs, right, is when you see these forward-looking statements, right, you know, what's the revenue in 2025? You know, I think it's important for these companies to guide more conservatively, right? Because otherwise we saw, you know, what happened with some of these SPACs where they issued guidance and then they've had to lower their forecast since then. For Vicarious here to be more conservative, to not bake in all the international projections, I think it's a strong play here. And I think 5 years down the road, you know, investors are going to be happy that they got into a play like this. So that would be my opinion, of course, here. You know, it looks like everyone in the chat really liked this interview and really liked that technology. So I think that's a positive too, you know, to see something different not out there.
Yep. I didn't state it, you know, just to give you guys the pro forma here, you know, 22.3%.
Yeah, that's a decent size, right? That DEH investors are getting. You know, we've seen SPACs where it's less than 10, and here you have 22%. Great point, Mitch. You know, and again, Bill Gates is invested in this company. You know, he was also invested in Butterfly Technology, right, which we've seen be a strong performer here. You've got Eric Schmidt from Google invested. You've got Becton Dickinson, right? One of the largest medical technology companies out there. They invested in the pipe, right? So strong names here, you know, that want to see this device come out. So great point, Mitch. Shareholders, yeah, getting a good size here, you know, the future of this company with DEH.
Hey, it's something you and I definitely have been paying attention to. It's how much you get at the company, where the revenues, the fundamentals are starting to matter, guys.
Yeah, and that valuation, right? You talked valuation with them, and you know, 1.1 billion for this company. I don't think that's out of line at all. So, you know, this isn't a $5 billion deal being done for a pre-revenue company. This was $1.1 billion, and it's a huge total addressable market size. So I like this deal. I like this company. You know, I don't own shares now because I wanted to get through this interview. But this is one that I'll be taking a look at, you know, for the long-term portfolio. Again, guys, that's important, right? Long-term outlook here, you know, for DEH, Vicarious Surgical.
Yep. And like my man Carl saying in the chat there, SPACs, guys, I really feel it. You know, it's like Carl says, like, these are the companies of the future. And so, of course, will there be some winners? Yeah. You can give me a thumbs up for that. Will there be some losers? Yep. You could probably give me another thumbs up for that. But at the end of the day, guess what? We're going to be here explaining these companies, going through the information, getting the interviews that you guys want out there so that you can make get the information and make your informed decision. I'm seeing that there's going to be some winners. Like, just to give you an insight, I mean, I think there's already been certain ones that we've already seen, but Genius Sports to me is one that I'm definitely, I think, long term, no matter what. I mean, with these partnerships, the data they have available, the starting to show competitive advantage over Sports Radar, and really, those are the types of companies that I'm looking at. Let's say Jaws Spitfire and Velo 3D. Over time, I don't care what you guys tell me. Anything with SpaceX, put my name on it, because I want it in my portfolio. I used to look at Maxar. You guys know how much I'm a Maxar fan. But the biggest reason I was a Maxar fan was because of relationships also with SpaceX. And so those are the kind of relationships that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the future. But really what we need to do is we need to look and see, okay, so a lot of times SPACs are given those revenues, right, and growth 5 years out, right, Chris?
That's right.
And so 5 years out, think about where this company is going to be. We're not playing the 2-week game because you want 20%. We're looking for those big gainers. But the biggest thing is that this is a long-term approach. And I think this is what's changed in the SPAC game. It's no longer just a trading vehicle. If you're here just to trade SPACs, I can tell you right now it's going to be tough. But if you're here to invest, and you're here to stick around, learn about these companies, find out why I would want to invest in these companies, this is the spot to do it on SPAC Attack.
Yeah, and Mitch, I heard some of the conversation on pre-market prep this morning, right? Dennis talking about, the SPY at an all-time high, what SPACs are trading at all-time highs, and, it was hard to come up with names, right? Well, guess what? IPOs, same thing, right? Take a look at IPOs over the last year. Airbnb, DoorDash, Snowflake, Coinbase, Roblox. None of them are trading at 52-week highs. The market has punished growth, right? And IPOs and SPACs are companies that are going public because they're growing companies. Those stocks are not performing well. But again, if you have a forward-looking outlook, the next 5 years, I think you're going to be pleasantly rewarded. So again, for all the talk about SPACs getting hammered, it's not just SPACs, it's IPOs. It is also high growth names. So, and then also following up with Carl in the chat, 1 hour to go on Topps NFT cards. That's right. Ticker MUDS. Keep an eye on that one. I know I'll be trying to get in line to get Topps NFTs today. So hopefully, if you guys want to get in line, go ahead, but hopefully you guys don't keep me from grabbing one of those NFT packs. But if you do, so be it, because that's what we're about here on the show. But keep an eye out on MUDS the rest of the day, as well as those things are going to sell out, and that news will also get out there for the stock.
I'm going to let you guys know. I'm going to be looking at them also, Chris. I hope I can sneak a pack, sneak a card, whatever I may get. I'm going to be looking for it, and we'll see if I could bring it to Money Mitch and show you guys what I got. But we'll see. But really, Carl, shout out. Thank you for giving us the heads up. 1 hour to go, guys. Keep it on your radar. Keep it up, guys. And, it looks like Todd, come to Money Mitch. We'll talk about Frontier Airlines. But definitely, guys, one of the things that we'll definitely be doing is reviewing also, let's say, SPACs that we looked at in the past and how they moved and developed. We talked about a lot, Chris. I think we need to go back to it, the waves of SPAC. A lot of SPACs are now going through what we call the valuation phase. And we talked about this. It comes into play once a company, especially once a company gets that merger through and then de-SPACs and the next ticker is on. And that's what we need to pay attention to, because at that point, you can really start looking deeper into a company, deeper into their revenues, how the valuation makes sense, and where the stock is going from here.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about the cycle. And, we're going to be doing a couple shows hopefully soon talking what are some of the best long-term SPAC plays. So I'm excited about that. I'm working on my list. But I think, that's what it's all about here, guys. Find the long-term winners, not the one-day gainers.
All right, guys. Up next, we got the Power Hour. The Power Hour is going to be coming on, guys. And guess what, guys? There's going to be a special interview there, guys. If you guys know who Webull CEO is, you just might see him on. So check it out, guys. That's going to be Power Hour. Anything you want to leave us off with, Chris?
No, I'm excited to watch that Webull interview. I had the pleasure of talking to Anthony on the phone yesterday to talk through some breaking news. So, you don't want to miss this interview to hear more from Anthony and Webull.
All right, and they're live, so I'm ending it and head to the Power Hour, guys, where you guys could probably get that next stock that could be 10x. So don't miss it. That's going to be on the Power Hour. And like always, guys, stick with us. SPACs Attack.